So what's the underlying cause behind the clashes in Jerusalem? Well, some say Israeli aggression on the Temple Mount, others the occupation. But despite the varying accounts, Israeli attorney, journalist, and author of Industry of Lies, Ben-Dror Yemini, pointing to a much simpler source. Joining me to discuss is Ben-Dror Yemini. Ben-Dror, it's great to have you. Now, not to ruin the surprise, but you say that the cause is simple anti-Semitism. Can you expand, though?
No, not only anti-Semitism. It's mainly incitement. I mean, people are not. It's nobody is coming to the world and is with built-in anti-Semitism. It's not the case. The case is that if you check the textbooks of the education system in the Palestinian territories, the new textbooks are even worse. I mean, some parts are totally anti-Semitic, like Jews control the world and that kind of stuff. I mean, so many people, unfortunately, are saying occupation, occupation, occupation. But just let's pay attention to something which is happening 5 hours flight from here in Sweden. Riots. Police cars were burned and policemen were wounded. I mean, do you know? Maybe you can inform me about any kind of occupation on behalf of Sweden.
Well, so many people.
No, we don't know. No, we don't know about that kind of. I mean, so what I'm trying to say is, well, we have a problem. We have a problem with education, with brainwashing, and with propaganda, and the outcome is that we have this kind of riots. Nothing to do with peace. I mean, and unfortunately, we have a kind of self-delusion that it's because of the occupation.
All right. Well, so Ben-Dror, many people argue that Israel and Jews are often too quick to point to anti-Semitic incitement and even abuse the allegation to divert attention away from legitimate critique. How do you respond?
No, first of all, I cannot tell you that I'm satisfied from everything that the Israeli government is doing. I'm criticizing my own government, and I don't think that I'm anti-Semite. I'm not against criticism. We are living in a democracy. Criticism is part of the story, of course, for us journalists. But so many people in this kind of democracy and free media, I mean, they're saying something which has nothing to do with the facts. Now, why shouldn't we show the real reason, which is mainly the Palestinian education, which is based on incitement against Israel, not against any policy of expanding the settlements or something of that kind, against the very existence of Israel.
Well, so what should Israel be doing about it? Is Israel going about things the right way? I mean, you said obviously to expose some of this education, but in terms of right now, during the clashes, is Israel going about it?
It's no. For the moment, it's something for the long run. It's not something that you can change from one day to the other. The point is that Israel is not doing it. You know who is doing it? The EU. Surprise, surprise. I mean, many times I criticize the EU, but this time the EU is delaying a budget of more than 200 million euros to the Palestinian Authority because of the anti-Semitic textbooks. So they are doing. And you know what the Palestinian respond? No, we prefer the incitement. We will not change the textbooks. And if you don't want to give us the money, don't give us the money. So, it's a problem. It's a problem.
Now we see similar incitement, and police say that the incitement is really strongest on social media. But in a recent poll in Israel showing that some 98% of Arab citizens in Israel oppose acts of violence, 93% think that the perpetrators do not represent Arab society. So are Israeli Arabs also consuming wholly different social media than their Palestinian counterparts, or are they resisting the indoctrination and incitement in another way?
No, I think, well, they live in a reality of the democracy and so on. I mean, they did not become Zionists, but they know exactly, most of them, that it's much better to live in Israel than in any other country around us, in the neighboring countries. So yes, of course, they are against violence. But the point is, when we are speaking about the Israeli Arabs or the Arabs in Sweden, you don't need the majority. in order to invoke violence, you need a minority, even a small minority. So even if most Arabs, and I believe that most Arabs are against violence, most Israeli Arabs are against violence, it's the problem is with a small minority that is supporting ISIS and or Hamas or that kind of extreme jihad, terror jihad organization. So it's not about the majority; it's about the minority. But yes, we are all exposed to incitement. The question is, do we want to absorb it or not? We Israelis also, we have this kind of incitement and kill all the Arabs kind of slogans among us.
All right. Well, Ben-Dror, thank you so much for joining us again, and Chag Sameach.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for having me. Chag Sameach.
ILTV Plus, your news from Israel and more 24/7. Start your free trial today. Subscribe at iltv.tv and watch from any device.